Alright, so we're back out in the garage again working on the 300ZX. Today we're going to try to install this 350Z diff. The Q45 diff that we have in there now winds worse than the Gen Z, that's just been told now. So, instead of finding another one, which they're getting harder to find, I found this one on Facebook Marketplace. It's the same gear ratio as the Q45 diff, so 3.54, and it does have the vsld. So I've already gone through and removed the bushings from this and resealed the back cover because I pulled it off to just do a general inspection. Everything looked good. And then, as you can see, I've got the car jacked up. I'm going to start taking the subframe out here pretty quick. Then I picked up these GK Tech bushings for the front. These just install like this. Now I think, because I've never done one of these diff installs before, so I'm gonna have to cut the subframe and do a lot of welding. But I think with these bushings, I'm going to actually install them backwards. The big one is supposed to go on the top for a 350Z, but the way I'm going to be doing this for spacing and to raise the diff up more, I think this bushing is going to get installed on the top and then the big one on the bottom. Or if I can do it, completely remove this bushing and then just go with the one that's in the bottom. It may require a little bit of clearancing for what I make for the mounts, because this is not straight across. There's a little bit of a hump here. So that will be determined once I get the subframe out. Here's what we're working with. The exhaust has been removed up front. I've got a ton of jack stands under here. Another jack other than they're just supporting it. Just to make sure that the Harbor Freight jack stands don't kill me today, even though they are the new ones. And I think it's just unhook the e-brake cable, which should be pretty easy. Drive shaft. I'm gonna take the brake calipers off and then hang them in the wheel well. So I'm going to take each wheel off and then take them off, put the wheel back on. And the goal is to lower the subframe back down to the ground and then keep the wheels on it and just roll it out once it's unhooked. But it's been 8 years since I've taken the subframe out. So I'm not sure how well this is going to go. But we'll set the camera up and get working on it. Brakes are undone, stuck in the control arm for now. Hopefully I don't forget to remove them. And I guess we'll start working on a drive shaft. Alright, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. So if I'm remembering how to do this correctly, you got the two rear mounts here, you got the coilover mount here, and then these two mounts here up in the front, and this should be ready to come out. It's taken all of maybe 15 minutes, which is kind of strange. Usually it goes, something goes wrong, bolt breaks, something. So far so good. So I wired the calipers up here, did it on both sides, so that way if I pull this out it doesn't catch. Let's get this out of here real quick. Alright, so I turned the camera off for a minute. I'm gonna get back working on this. I got the axles unhooked on both sides. All the bolts are out. I had to take the sway bar off because that was in the way. That's over there. That is a factory TT sway bar from a JDM Z32. So this right here, that's my e-brake cable. And when I installed this subframe originally, I had put the subframe in and then bolted everything to it. I didn't have a way of doing the e-brake until after the fact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of metal pipe and I'm going to weld that directly to the subframe kind of in that angle, and then I'll be able to get rid of all these hose clamps. That it worked for years, but it's not correct, and we'll get that taken care of. And I'm going to see if I can find a better solution to these. We'll get this differential out of here, and we'll get this flipped over and marked up on how I want to cut it up. I know I need to remove the lips here on the front and on the bottom, I believe it is, and then on the back side, hopefully the wind isn't too bad, it's a little breezy today. On the back side we'll have one stud coming through, so I'm going to take a hole saw and just about where it's supposed to be and drill it big, and then I will weld a washer in where it needs to be. This subframe has been braced with 1/8 inch plate, so it's going to be even more difficult to drill through than just a standard subframe, but we'll get it somehow. If I have to, I'll get the plasma cutter out. I think a hole saw will do it. So here's the two side by side. This diff has a Canadian S13 finned cover on it. Bought brand new from Nissan. So get that cleaned up and probably sell it, because that does not bolt to this differential. And of course, the big difference here is the mounting points. This is much wider and this sits higher. So if you use the conversion bushings, it just puts the pinion angle way too low. So this bar is going to get cut out, and then that'll be reworked with new mounting points out here, and I'll just strengthen it back up when it's done, but it's not too bad. The widths on the diff should be the same. Also, because I'm using a Q45 diff, my flange for the drive shaft, that is the same. So I went and grabbed my little 4x8 trailer. I got this flipped upside down. This is the 350Z diff here. Just trying to figure out where that stud goes so I can drill that hole in the back. I'll drill it oversized for adjustment and then weld that washer in. But right there looks pretty good. Both axles go into place. And then once that hole is drilled, I can push this backwards and then mark off where I'm going to cut, and then I'll start cutting into this bar to drop the front end. If you look, you can see that, I don't know if you can see it from the video, but that differential is sitting with the nose, which would be facing towards the ground, and there's no way that would be acceptable. So yeah, we'll get that drilled and move on to the next. That hole should get me pretty close on that stud, and we'll weld a washer on both sides, and it'll be strong. It's 1/8 inch plate welded on the back side of this anyway, so it'll be alright. Bulldozer did an excellent job of getting through it. It took all of maybe a minute to bore through both plates, but this is what I'm going to cut off. So I'll cut these out, get the nuts out of there because they're not even welded, they're just kind of captive, and they'll be moved over into around here and then, well, drop down lower. So I'm going to bring this whole thing up to the shed here in a minute, chop these off, and then reinstall the diff and see how close I am. Okay, so this is day 2. I had to stop yesterday. The grass is completely dry, and I ended up catching it on fire next to my shed. So we got most of it actually cut on this side, and we just need to finish off the back side. Should be able to pop them right out. Everything's cut out. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good. I may have to do a little bit of grinding here still. I'm going to test fit the differential and see what else needs to be cut. I'm trying to work on this for a couple hours a night after work, and it gets dark pretty quick, so here's where I'm at. I ended up clearing this thing a little bit more out of the subframe. I will weld in some metal. Got a little deep on that one, but it'll be okay. That sits down in there nice. Then the axles right up in here nicely, and they have plenty of compression on each side. for the suspension to move. Tried to make sure that it was all about the same. And I'll bolt right in there. Then around back here, I got this washer. I'm gonna weld around this. I'm gonna tack weld that in probably tomorrow night, just because that's right where I need to be. Got just a little bit of drop down. It's all been measured, so it should clear, and the diff is in there pretty straight. So now I just need to start making the front mounts, get that welded in. It's Saturday again and I'm out here working on this. All the mounts are welded in place, the side ones in, so it's all boxed in. Now I just got to put some braces between here and here on the four corners, and then these are half of the 350Z mounts, and this is supposed to be the top half, but I want the thicker side down so that way the bolt doesn't bottom out into the threads there. And this hole was off just a little bit where I welded the nut in, so I chucked this into the lathe. Just bored the hole out a little bit. And that gives perfect alignment to the bolt down there. It all bolts in. Of course, you got the washer in the back. And yeah, the mounts are all in. So now what's left is just build these, and then I'm going to take care of this mess on the e-brake cable. So I got the subframe split back over. Here is my new holder for the e-brake cable, and then this will get crimped onto here, but I need to go get some more cable and a new turnbuckle because I kind of destroyed that, set the subframe on it. I've got the braces done on the front and back side. Don't judge the SEMA welds. They were done with flex core because that's all I have right now. I ran out of gas and nobody can get me any until Tuesday. I wanted to get this finished. So now all I gotta do, I gotta go pick up some paint. I'm gonna get a new cable and a new turnbuckle, and then get this painted up and get the differential in, and then tomorrow should be installing it. Alright, so I was able to work on this for a while last night. E-brake cable is complete. I put 3 on each connection just to make sure it doesn't slip. I've never had any problems with the old setup, but this should be a lot more reliable. And biggest thing is I won't poke myself with the cables anymore because I put heat shrink on all the ends where the cable was. But yeah, the differential's all in. It's all bolted in. Everything's painted. I do have to tighten down the axle bolts once I get it in. I'll do that when the e-brake cable is hooked up so I can lock the brakes up and get a good torque on them. But yeah, it's all complete. Alright, so here it is. Everything's all bolted in. Sway bars are back up. Everything is tight. The e-brake cable worked out pretty decent. I wish there was a little bit more room in here for this to go in. I may open that up a little bit, but we're gonna leave it. And to stop the turnbuckle from turning off, I just got some zip ties in there, and it just gets bound up so it can't back out on me. But there it is. It's all completely installed. It's full of oil. And the very last thing I need to do is hook the exhaust up. So I'm gonna get that on real quick and then get some wheels on it, and we're going for a test drive. It's time to take it for a test drive. I'm not sure how much you'll be able to hear, but I'm gonna leave the windows up, and hopefully you can hear the sound difference between the way it was before. I have not driven this yet, so this will be a surprise to both of us. Also, hopefully it doesn't fall apart. I don't know why I didn't swap that diff out a long time ago. We're doing about 50, and at 45 to 60 was insanely bad. I guess there was just a little bit of just slight whine in the rear, but it's nothing compared to the way it used to be. That's insane. It doesn't even sound like the same car. It's that much quieter. And this is with an open exhaust, and I can actually hear myself thinking here. Alright, it's been one crazy week trying to get this done. Got a couple more weeks left of driving this thing before winter time. Next project I'm thinking about doing is the HID headlights with the clear lenses. Thanks for watching.